Teachers of Reddit, what is the smartest, most creative way of cheating that you've seen? I remember a story from my OChem professor. This student all semester who wasn't showing up to class kept getting his score improved significantly after regrades. They got their tests back, had a day to review them, and were allowed to resubmit for a regrade. They knew he was cheating because of the unlikelihood of the grading mistakes on multiple exams, but the TAs who graded it couldn't confidently say it wasn't their handwriting. Ultimately, it was an office worker for the department who figured it out near the end of the semester. His staples were angled different than the exams handed out that were mass stapled. He was recreating the test, printing it, re-answering it, and then grading it in the same pen as the TAs, and had done a good job copying the writing style. Not sure if this would work anymore, but if I had a paper to write on a book I didn't read, I would find a well-written paper online, then translate the entire thing from English to German, German to French, French to Spanish, then Spanish back to English, pull the original paper and the new one up side by side and clean up the grammar on the new paper, and you've got the same concept, but written just different enough to not be plagiarism. Worked like a charm. We had one teacher, probably 2005-ish, who barely spoke English. A couple of the guys would just take an article, swap the first and last halves of each sentence and hand it in. Because he spoke the most broken English, he was Chinese, he wasn't able to distinguish it from proper English. This is before the anti-plagiarism tools we have today. Not the student but the teacher. So, the teacher, let's call him Mr. A, had a reputation for being a phenomenal teacher who had every student engaged and invested in his class. No matter how mundane the subject, anytime he asked a question, every student's hand would shoot in the air with them shouting things like "call on me" or "I know the answer." Simply, Mr. A developed a reputation in the district as one of its best teachers. Fast forward a couple years and I'm grabbing coffee with Mr. A and I ask him, "What's your trick? How did you get every student bought in?" His response, "Well, I told the kids every time we had a visitor in class, I need you all to raise your hand like I was giving away free candy. But if you don't know the answer, raise your left hand. If you do know it, raise your right hand. So I know who to call on and we all look good." Worked like a charm. I was supervising a final chemistry exam along with another coworker. Not 15 minutes in, a hand slams down on a desk and I turn around expecting the worst, only to see my coworker angrily shouting at a pair of really frightened 10th graders whose desk he smashed. Amidst the shouting I caught the words, "Morse code." The guy proceeded to take them to the office. I called a hallway supervisor to take over and ran after the group. Apparently, the kids were silently tapping the answers amongst themselves in Morse code, not even with their fingernails, just their fingertips. I never heard a thing. My co-worker happened to catch B in Morse code or something. I honestly thought he finally went crazy solely because of his appearance. Picture Robin Williams in Jumanji going, "What year is IT?" I'm 100% sure that if this co-worker weren't in the room, they'd have gotten away with it for sure. In high school I was in a computer-based learning program and our science tests were taken digitally. However, they used a program where once you entered the test your entire screen was locked into the test and the only way to exit it was to click the finish button on the test or turn off your computer, which effectively did the same thing. Another feature of the program was that once you were in the test, anything you had in your clipboard, copied text, was not able to be pasted into the answer sections on the test to prevent the only other way to cheat. However, after creating my own classroom at home, making fake tests and playing with the program to figure out a way to cheat, I realized that it would allow you to copy things from inside the test and paste them elsewhere in this test. The developers of the program also did not take into account the sign-in screen where you have to find the test and enter it. Long story short, I could copy my entire page of notes I had taken on the test material, paste it into the section where I would enter my login information, then recopy it, enter the test and paste it again in one of the answer sections, using it to answer every question and then deleting it before clicking finish. I was at TAFE for anatomy and physiology. The professor would ask for me to sit in on finals to prevent cheating. One kid came in with a vitamin water. No worries. Halfway through the test the professor noticed they kept turning the bottle and squinting. This goes on for another 20 minutes. Professor goes up, grabs the vitamin water bottle and rips off the label. It had a crib sheet written on the back. The students had gone to the effort to make a fake vitamin water bottle label and write notes in the back. The professor was impressed by the creativity and decided to give the student a 0 and not report them to the academic committee. I passed a pop quiz in high school by looking across the room and focusing on the top of the smart girl's pencil and trying to decipher if she wrote A, B, C or D after the teacher asked each question. It actually turned out more successful than I thought it would. Edit. Spelling. Hey, I mentioned how I cheated on a quiz. What did you expect? Also, I'm all about academic integrity when it comes to important higher education when relative to your field of work, but I don't understand loading immense amounts of needless information into young, hormonal teenagers and getting upset or surprised that they don't have the mental stamina to deal with it all and would rather cheat. So, as a teacher, the smartest way I cheat is by giving the kids a noticard and telling them they can put whatever cheat sheet stuff on there they want. It tricks them into actually studying for their math tests. Also, a pro tip from a math teacher: most students don't know how to study for math and this is why they struggle. Think of studying math like practicing an instrument. You need to learn a piece by practicing multiple problems from skill set. If you aren't practicing at least 18 problems at least every day to 2 days, then you're never going to get past the little mistakes and missteps which have probably plagued you. Edit. Please stop asking if I'm your old teacher. It's 99.99% likely that I'm not. This is a very common trick that many teachers use and have been using for decades. So, not a teacher, but I witnessed probably the biggest cheating related scandal in our high school's history. For context, we had the sweetest old guy as our chem teacher. He called everyone bud or buddy or mom. He always helped. He volunteered to teach driver's ed after school so kids could learn to drive. He always had a twinkle in his eye because he genuinely showed love and kindness to everyone. A side effect of this was that he was very trusting. So one day, before finals, he ran to the bathroom during class while everyone was wrapping up their lab reports. While he was gone, someone ran to his desk, found the finals just sitting there, snapped a pic, and then ran back to their desk before he got back. Somehow, no one tackled. Probably because 90% of our grade level in that class was on board with it. The pictures got texted around, but a few people were smart enough to Bluetooth into each other so it couldn't be tracked. Well, after the test, everyone had high scores and apparently someone confessed. This resulted in a huge investigation by the assistant principals, school police officer, and faculty. They traced every text message and busted so many people, all except the ones who transferred via Bluetooth. They had to reissue the test. Man, that was crazy. I felt so bad for the teacher. He was really sad someone had taken advantage of him, and I was too. Such a good dude. Edit. Oh hot damn. Thanks for the gold. Edit 2. To clarify, the school didn't trace the messages. They just had 1v1 interviews with the school cop nearby so kids would feel pressured to snitch. Apparently a few cracked under the pressure, but if I recall correctly a fair number got away with it. Edit 3. Also, the cop was our school cop. Real badge, gun, car. He was just there to protect us against school shooters, bombers. He patrolled for loiterers, ran drug searches, ran security for after school events and pep rallies, etc. So, no actual police force was present, just this guy. I was grading a written assignment that had a 1,000 word count minimum, and one particular paper just felt really short to me despite Word telling me it was roughly 1,100 words long. On a hunch I hit Ctrl A and sure enough after the paper concluded there was a lot of white nonsense text on a white background. I did this once in a college class. Sort of. The class was real analysis and there was one problem that was absolutely going to be number 1 on the final exam. It had been number 1 for every final exam this professor had ever written, of which he gave us copies to study from. And it was number 1 on the study guide for our final. I couldn't do it. I tried and tried and tried, and studied, and got help, and whatever I did I could not figure out the finer point of this specific type of proof given in this specific context. So I resorted to memorizing the steps and getting it down to a sequence of blanks I could fill in. Exam day comes. I buy 2 blue books that morning, test booklets with lined paper inside. In one of them I very faintly write the answer to number 1, complete with space to fill in the aforementioned blanks. On the front I fill in my name to differentiate it from the other booklet. When the professor tells us to take out our blue books and trade with the person next to us, I trade my blank blue book. I take the one I'm given and slip it into my backpack. At the same time I slide out my blue book with my calculator and pencil, so it all looked legit. I get my test number 1 doesn't fail. It is exactly as expected. I fill in the blanks and write over my words. I continue on with the exam. And I pass the class. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm only 16, so I hope you didn't cringe from the editing. I hope we can get to 50,000 subscribers because I wouldn't be here without all of you. So thank you so much for your time and energy, and please subscribe.